Hey, Book Dragons, I am so glad you've joined me today. I have a book tag today, and I'm super excited to do this one. And this is the Rock on Celtic Songs book tag. This is a tag that was made almost perfectly for me. And it's March, so St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner, so I'm just super excited to do this. This tag was created by Nicole over at Nicole's Bookish Nook, and Nicole also tagged me in this tag. So, here we go. I'm going to put my eyes on, and we're going to do this tag. Just to let you know, there are names of songs listed here. Some are traditional Scottish ballads. Some are Irish punk songs. There's a wide variety. Some of them I may sing, so just be forewarned that I may sing a couple of the songs if I know them well. I've heard a few of the songs from traditional Scottish folk singers like Alex Beaton and stuff like that. So just be aware that some I'm familiar with, some I'm not. If I'm not really familiar with the song, I'm not going to sing it or play it or anything like that. But you may hear some music from time to time in this video, okay? So now we're going to get to the tag. And the first song on this tag is Drunken Lullabies by Flogging Molly. And they are one of my absolute favorite bands. Alright, guys. Alright, so Drunken Lullabies by Flogging Molly. The prompt says, a book involving a celebration that you enjoyed. And that would be Bilbo Baggins' 11st birthday celebration from The Lord of the Rings. Just one of my favorite openings to a book, really. We get that party in the opening, and Bilbo's got all his friends there to celebrate his 11st birthday, his 111th birthday, and it's just a wild time. There's fireworks, courtesy of Gandalf the Wizard, and it's so much fun. I love that celebration. All right, so we are going to get to the next one here, and that is The Parting Glass by Ed Sheeran. Now, this is a cover that Ed Sheeran did. That's a traditional Celtic ballad. I don't know the song personally, so I'm not going to sing it, but this prompt is a book that left you feeling bittersweet because it ended. And that would be Fool's Fate. That's the final book in the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. There were so many emotions at the end of that trilogy. The final book itself ended on a very bittersweet ending. There were things I liked about it. There were things that just really crushed me. And so that one is definitely a book that left me with a bittersweet taste. All right. Rebel Yell by Billy Idol. And I've heard this song. I don't know it well, so a book you read because someone told you not to read it. And that would be His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. The trilogy, actually. I know I'm kind of cheating there, but it's the trilogy that I was told not to read because of the content that's in it. And, I grew up in a very religious household. I went to a school with a lot of very religious people, and some of those people had read it, and they're like, yeah, Charles, don't read that book. It's just full of all this stuff that is completely antithetical to what we believe. And I read it, and it was kind of antithetical to what they believe, and I now no longer believe. But I found the book fascinating, endearing, a wonderful fantasy story, and at the end of the day, it's fiction. Like, are you really going to draw a line on a fictional book? But it does have some ideas in it that would be found problematic by people who are very religious in their ideals. And I'll just leave it at that. So, That is the one that I was told not to read. And then Starman by David Bowie. There's a starman waiting in the sky. A sci-fi book about aliens. And I picked The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu for this one. I read The Three-Body Problem a couple of years ago, I think, and it's one of those books that has very mixed reviews on BookTube and in the reading community. It's a very high concept book. It's not really great on character work. The plot is there, but the whole book really revolves around the concepts that it's presenting and, you know, presenting our first contact with alien life forms and things like that. So I thought it was an excellent book, but not really one of my favorites, because I really do enjoy a good character-driven story, and the concepts were fascinating, though, and I definitely highly recommend it. I do want to read the rest of the series at some point, so I will be doing that. Okay, Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys. I've heard the song. I don't know it well enough, but I like the song. I like Dropkick Murphys. And this prompt is a fiction or nonfiction book set in or around Boston, Massachusetts. I have not read any books that are centered in Boston, Massachusetts, but the prompt does not say it has to be a book I've read, right? So I discovered that one of the books that's on my wish list of books to read, Mystic River by Dennis Lehane, or Lehane, depending on how you pronounce it. I have some Irish friends that pronounce it Lehane. I think they would know, so I'm going to go with Lehane, but I've heard it pronounced differently. This is a book I've been hearing about a lot on BookTube lately. It has me very curious to read it. I've heard that Lehane is a fantastic thriller novelist, and so I'm very curious to see what this one is like. So I haven't read it, but I will eventually, and apparently it's set in Boston, Mass. All right, let's move on to the next one. The Bonnie Banks of Lochlomond. It's a traditional Scottish ballad. I've heard it countless times, and I love it. A book that's centered around nature. And for this one, I went with Walden by Henry David Thoreau. And this is his musings on quiet life in a small cottage in the countryside and surrounded by nature, and what it means to live a simple life and to just be captive by your thoughts and nothing else, and to be relaxed and contemplative. It's a fascinating read. Now, I have not read it in a long time, so I remember enjoying what I did read, though, and I will probably read it again at some point. Thoreau is very much on my side of things when it comes to a more minimalist life, and, you know, some of the things that I hold dear to my heart and some of the things that are core values for me are espoused by Thoreau, and I highly recommend reading Walden, or Life in the Woods, as it's also called. So, there we go. All right. Twa Recruitin Sergeants by Seamus Kennedy. Now, Seamus Kennedy is not the originator of this song. This is a song that has been sung by numerous different groups and solo artists. I first heard it from Alex Beaton, one of my favorite Scottish folk singers, and who I've had a chance to meet on a couple of times. Just a really great guy. And so I first heard this on one of his albums, and so I don't remember exactly how it goes, so I'm not going to sing it for you, but the prompt for this one is a fiction or nonfiction book about war. And for this one I picked Excalibur by Bernard Cornwell. This is the third book in the Warlord Chronicles, and it is Cornwell's take on the Arthurian legend. I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic series, and there's some really epic battles in the final book, in Excalibur, And this is a time when tensions are high between the English and the Saxons, and there are great battles to be fought and are fought in this book over the land of Brittany. So it's just a fascinating read. It's high tension, great character work. It's told from the first person perspective of Derval Cadern, who is a close friend of Arthur's and is a Saxon himself, but he's been befriended by Arthur. So it's a fascinating read. I highly recommend these. I highly recommend the audiobooks if you get a chance. The audiobooks are really the best way to experience this series. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first laid my eyes on Miss Molly Malone. And that's right. This prompt is Molly Malone by the Dubliners. And this is a book with a badass female character. And I chose Lisbeth Salander from the Millennium Trilogy by Stieg Larsson. You're probably most familiar with the first book. The name is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And it is just a phenomenal series. The original 3 books, I've not read beyond it, but the core Millennium Trilogy that Stieg wrote before he died, oh, so good. Such a great series. And Lisbeth Salander is a force to be reckoned with. We'll just say that. So read it. It's excellent. If you've already read it, you already know. All right. And the final prompt here is an Irish pub song by the Rumjacks. I hadn't heard of that band or heard that song, so I listened to it and I liked it, but I don't know it. So a book that is misunderstood. And for this one, I picked The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. And I think the reason this is so misunderstood is because there were a lot of expectations around it when he wrote the book. Everybody was coming off fresh from the first 2 Kingkiller Chronicle books, and then he announced that he was writing this short story that was going to feature Ari, and when they finally got it in their hands, I don't think they quite knew where to place it or how it fits. It really is kind of a misfit book because you're following Ari, which if you've read the Kingkiller Chronicles, you know who she is. You're just following her through her home called the Underthing and, going through her daily routine. It's very much a slice of life, following her around as she talks to the different inanimate objects that she has in her home and that she's collected over the years. I loved it. I had a fantastic time reading this book. But so many Kingkiller fans hate this book. They hate it. I don't know why, but they do. They hate it. So that is the book I picked for that. And that is the end of the tag. Now, I've got to tag a few people. I'm going to tag Josh over at Already Overbooked. I'm going to tag Pat over at Book Chat with Pat because I know she loves Celtic history and culture and things like that, so I'd love to see her do this tag. And I'm also going to tag Joe and Mary over at Book Buds. They may have already been tagged in this by Nicole. I'm not sure. I didn't pay attention. I probably should have, but I'm tagging them whether they've been tagged or not. So that's it, guys. We're all done. And I don't know if you happen to notice, just a side note, I got a new hat. This is a Boston Scally, and it has a little shamrock on the side, and I love these kind of caps. They're some of my favorite caps to wear, and the Boston Scally Company has some really cool hats. So I'll leave their link down there in case you want to check out their hats. Just, I'm a hat enthusiast, and I wanted to have a cool new hat for St. Patrick's Day, and so there we go. Anyway, that's a random side note. I hope you guys have had fun watching this tag. And if this tag sounds interesting to you and you want to do this tag, feel free. Just consider yourself tagged. I'd love to see you do it. And until next time, guys, make sure you read more books, and make sure you check out some of the cards at the end for other videos of mine that you can watch.